Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Hello everyone, it's SpawnPoiint, and if you've just got yourself an Xbox Series X or S, or you've had one already and you're not sure what games you should jump on next, well, here are my top Xbox games to play right now. From racing games to couch co-op, single player and story-driven games, there should be something for everybody in this list. And on top of that, most of these games are available on Game Pass, which is a massive bonus, but I will let you know which ones are throughout the video. And before we start, drop a comment below telling me what games you are currently playing. I'm always interested to hear about different games that I might have missed. And if you enjoy gaming, drop a like on this video as it always helps me out. Okay, so one of the most recent releases that we've seen on the Xbox is Hi-Fi Rush. It's a new colourful action-packed adventure game that's different to what we've seen before. You play as Chai, a wannabe rock star who, as a result of an operation gone wrong, has an MP3 player left inside his body. This gives him the power of music, which is the primary basis of the game. Everything you do, whether it's a regular gameplay or boss battles, are done to the beat or rhythm of a song. And some of the tracks and songs in this game are awesome. I can't play the songs here as they would be copyrighted, but think Guitar Hero and Rock Band. Then there's the visuals of this game, and they are crazy colourful and vibrant. It feels like you're playing an interactive comic book most of the time, especially with the illustrations and the artwork. So yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is a great new game to check out on the Xbox Series consoles, and it's on Game Pass as well. Next up, which isn't a surprise as I don't think any list of Xbox games would be complete without it, and that's Forza Horizon 5. Now, I was a huge fan of Horizon 4 with the open world map based on areas of the UK, and this time it's even better and bigger. In fact, it's 50% larger than the previous one, which is probably why it takes me so long to get anywhere. Horizon 5 is now set in Mexico, where you take part in various races, events and missions as you drive across the desert, through jungles and swamps. There's something special about being able to drive across the country, exploring the roads and scenery before jumping into the next race. But I definitely spend more time messing around than doing the real races and missions. And the list of cars that you get to drive just keeps on growing. At launch there were over 500, and that's grown to more than 650. This includes cars, trucks and rally cars. And I still feel that Forza Horizon is the king of racing games, especially when you factor in the open world element. Now, if you're looking for a game to chill with, have some fun and not take too seriously, then you need to check out High on Life. This is a first-person shooter that has a comedic approach like no other. You play as a bounty hunter fighting against the alien drug cartel who have now invaded Earth. Very early on in the game, you pick up a talking pistol called Kenny, who's not only your sidekick but adds some ridiculous humour to the game. Even some of the NPC behaviour, environment and storylines show the attention to detail in this. Visually, it's a great looking game too, and it has that futuristic vibe to it. Now bear in mind that this might look like a child friendly game, but it's actually an 18, so probably not one for the kids to play. Right, so have you ever watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Well, this next game you could say is inspired by that movie. Grounded is a first-person and third-person survival adventure game where you play as one of 4 children that have been shrunk down to the size of an ant. You navigate and explore your way around the backyard, fighting off huge insects and trying to find labs left by a doctor to recover clues as to how and why you were shrunk in the first place. You can play this game as solo or with friends and team up to 4-player co-op. It's also on Game Pass and it's definitely a game worth trying out.
Looks like the other 2 lasers are blocked.
Master Chief has to be one of the most iconic Xbox characters out there, so he has got to be on the list today. And this time it's with the latest installment, Halo Infinite. It's a first-person shooter game which is set 1 year after Halo 5. You don't need to have played the previous games to jump into this one, as the story is written in a way that new players can pick up without missing out. However, if you wanted to play them all, there is a Master Chief collection that has all of the classic games which are remastered for the Series X. But Halo Infinite is a campaign mode which is semi-open world, where you can explore freely and work your way through the missions. It has side quests as well as an online multiplayer option, modes like Deathmatch and Capture the Flag. I think this is a great all-rounder game, and it wouldn't be an Xbox games list without Halo mentioned. If you like narrative-driven games, you might like the look of As Dusk Falls. You follow the story of 2 families whose paths collide in the Arizona desert in 1998. It's an interactive game where the decisions and narrative choices you make have a direct impact on the outcome of the scenes that you're playing. From a story point of view, this is engaging, captivating and a lot of fun. It's actually pretty intense most of the time, as you've only got around 10 seconds to make a choice, and getting it wrong could cost you. Visually, it's like an interactive book or comic, where the images appear to be an animated photograph rather than typical full motion. But if you're after a story-driven game with a little input from a mechanical point of view, this is great.
I'm Sheriff Romero, and I guess you must be Vince.
Fancy a fast-paced, turn-based strategy game and enjoy the Gears series? Well, Gears Tactics could be the answer. This is set 12 years before the first Gears of War, and is totally different to what we've seen from the series yet. You build, recruit and command your squad in battles against swarms of enemies as you navigate around the different maps. But what's great is, even though it's a tactical game, the camera angles do change and zoom in based on the actions that you're doing, so you still feel part of the action as you play. But if strategy games aren't for you, there's always Gears 5. This is the traditional third-person shooting game, and it can either be played in single, co-op or online. Pentiment isn't a game that will push the Xbox Series X or S capabilities, but that doesn't mean it's not worth playing. On the surface, this looks like an indie game, but it's actually developed by Obsidian. They brought us Fallout New Vegas and The Outer Worlds. Now this is a purely narrative-driven game, an interactive novel you could say. Every decision that you make has a direct impact on the community's future, and it's your job to solve murders with a cast of suspects to choose from. It's something a little different to the norm, but it could be a lot of fun. Next up is a sequel to A Plague Tale: Innocence, and this one is called Requiem. These are narrative, story-driven games that captivate you from the start, and it does a great job of character building as you play through the games. It's set in a 14th century medieval France, and you follow two siblings called Amicia and Hugo through their journey of finding a cure for Hugo's illness. Now, without giving too much away in case you've not played the first game, the story picks up from where it concludes in the previous game, but there's loads of stealth elements to it, a deep story, and rats. There are so many rats. My advice is, if you've not played either of these, is to give them a go. I think you'll be surprised at just how good the story is, and you will be invested pretty early on. From what I can see, the first one is no longer on Game Pass, but the second one is.
I had a nightmare.
Now, if you want a game that looks good, plays well, and really shows how good the Xbox Series consoles can be, you've got Elden Ring. You know, the game that won Game of the Year in 2022. This is a third-person ARPG, or action role-playing game, and it's set in a place called the Lands Between, where demigods rule over the different regions. You travel across the world, fighting various enemies and bosses while trying your hardest not to die. Now, although this did win Game of the Year, and it is a masterpiece of a game, it won't be for everyone. It will test you, and it is really hard. However, if you enjoyed games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, you will enjoy this as well. Resident Evil 4 originally launched back in 2005, but since then it's been remade to include enhanced visuals, improved gameplay and even new side quests. I've been playing this over the last week and it is a brilliant fresh take on the game. Once again, you play as Leon S. Kennedy from a third-person perspective on a mission to rescue the president's daughter. As before, you face threats and hordes of enemies as you progress through the village. Capcom have said that the overall story and narrative of the game is similar to the original, but with the improved combat, menus and crafting, it gives the game a much needed update with enough changes to make it feel new. But the big question is, do you play this game with the lights on or off? So I'm going to make a massive assumption here that you have friends or family members that you'd like to play a co-op game with. Well, if you do, you might be interested in playing It Takes Two. This is a fun and engaging co-op game that you can either play locally via split screen or online. Either way, your partner doesn't need to pay for a copy of the game, as you can share your game via the free Friend Pass option. Essentially, you play as a couple called Cody and May, two parents that have been turned into dolls. You need to navigate your way around the levels, working together to solve the puzzles and escape back to reality, all while trying to save their marriage from divorce. It sounds pretty deep, and the underlying story is, but the game itself is a lot of fun and visually it looks great. Next is a fast-paced platform adventure game which released a few years ago now called Ori and the Will-o'-the-Wisps. You explore the vast exotic world solving puzzles and fighting enemies. The story is easy to follow, the gameplay is fluid, but what stands out the most is the striking visuals and vibrancy of the game. This game is a sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, and it's definitely one of the nicest platform games on Game Pass right now. This next one is probably one of the most intriguing games in the list, which is Prey. It's a first-person shooter game, but it has some role-playing elements to it as well. It takes place on board a space station set in the future, with various aliens which you are tasked with eliminating as you're being hunted. Unfortunately, Prey didn't really get off the ground when it launched, and although the reviews for it were good, I feel it slipped under the radar for most. And it's one of the reasons that I've included it in today's list, because it is totally different to the rest, it's underrated, and it plays incredibly well on the Series X and S. And here is a bonus game that you'll be very surprised to see in the list. So if you're as old as me, you probably played GoldenEye back on the N64 in the late 90s. Well, since then I've always wanted a remake. Now we don't have one of those yet, but we did get a remaster type release on the Xbox back in January. And this plays incredibly well and looks awesome. So if you want to relive some of those nostalgic 4-player split screen with slaps only, this is definitely the way to do it. And another huge bonus is this game is included on Game Pass. So that was a look at some of the best games that you can play on the Xbox right now. These were all my personal favourites and games that I would recommend playing. But let me know what your number one game would be, or if I've missed any, drop those in the comments as well. And if you did enjoy today's video, check out my top 10 Xbox accessories video next, as it covers a selection of accessories that I'm currently using on my Series X and S. And I also wanted to say a massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. So Squarespace allows you to create amazing websites and gives you the tools to connect with your audience. You can also generate revenue through gated members-only content. You can manage your members, send emails, and leverage audience through the insights, all in one easy-to-use platform. You could create a community of your own through the commenting system, including replies and likes, as well as publishing blogs and creating a powerful e-commerce site. These third-party tools will allow you to manage inventory, promote products, and even streamline your bookkeeping and accounts. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/SpawnPoiint to save 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. Well, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, sub, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Until next time.